ज़मीन के रहने वालों की तरफ से आपको खुश आमदीद कहते हैं।
Hola y saludos a todos.
Greetings and friendly wishes to all who may encounter this Voyager and receive this message.
Hello.
안녕하세요. 여덟 여시마오나 사마.
พวกเราในธรณีนี้ขอส่งมิตรจิตมาถึงท่านทุกคน
เสียงนี้เป็นไงแล้วมาเข้าเว้ย
จังท่านก็จะกลับบ้านเลยเจ้าทั้งเฮา
We step into the universe with humility and hope.
บ้านเลยขอส่งมิตรจิต
تحياتنا للأصدقاء في النجوم.
Hello from the children. From the children. Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth.
ท่านก็มิตรจิต
Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth. Hello.
こんにちは。
Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth.
ท่านก็มิตรจิต
Hello from the children. From the children. Hello.
こんにちは。
Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth.
I should like to extend greetings to the extraterrestrial inhabitants of outer space.
안녕하세요.
Bonjour tout le monde.
안녕하세요.
Tanti auguri e saluti.
Obrigado, Melissa, Marena.
Hello. Hello.
We step into the universe with humility and hope.
จังท่านก็จะกลับบ้านเลยเจ้าทั้งเฮา
Paz e felicidade a todos.
Namaskar, Vishe, Shanti.
Hello.
บ้านเลยขอส่งมิตรจิต
Hello.
เสียงนี้เป็นไงแล้วมาเข้าเว้ย
تحياتنا للأصدقاء في النجوم. يا ليت يجمعنا زمان.
Hello. Hello from the children. From the children. Hello. Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth.
ท่านก็มิตรจิต
Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth. Hello.
こんにちは。
Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth.
ท่านก็มิตรจิต
Hello from the children. From the children. Hello.
こんにちは。
Hello from the children. From the children of planet Earth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wonder with Us. What a spectacular way to begin our evening together. You're joining us from Delaware, from Florida, from Wisconsin, from Pennsylvania, and all sorts of places in between. None of us is yet in space, but someday we might be. Tonight's event is called Wonder with Us. It's part of Remake Learning Days across America. There are nearly 1,500 events happening in 17 locations all across these United States, as well as virtually online like tonight, where together as adults and kids in our lives will wonder and explore about all sorts of things. And we're going to wonder about some wondrous things tonight related to STEM and so much more. I'm Greg Bear. I'm one of your co-hosts for tonight, and I'm the co-author of this book entitled When You Wonder, You're Learning, Mr. Rogers' Enduring Lessons for Raising Creative, Curious, Caring Kids. And I'm joined by my co-author, Ryan.
Hello, my name is Ryan Radzeski. I am Greg's co-author. Together, we wrote this book, When You Wonder, You're Learning, it's our attempt to talk about the enduring lessons of Mr. Rogers. Why does Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood still matter today? And a primary reason that he still matters is that Mr. Rogers was an expert wonderer. If you watch basically any episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood or Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, you'll find people telling viewers how many questions they have. You'll find him talking about how much they want to know about the world. Mr. Rogers had a song called Did You Know? Did you know when you wonder, you're learning? He knew how important wonder was. He knows that wonder helps shape what it is that we pursue, what it is that we ultimately want to become, and who it is that we want to be. And so before we introduce our expert wonderers, the people who have so generously joined us tonight, we wonder what you would send into space. And we saw all sorts of amazing suggestions, everything from a cornhole game to a Lego set to a Howard Wolowitz. I'm curious.
I think I saw a cat.
I think there was a cat too. If anybody would like to come off mute, please let us know. Show us the thing that you would like to send into space if you have it in your house.
Oh, wait a minute. Emily and Leah, can you turn off mute? I see that you have something there. What is it that you have?
They're still muted.
I have a light to see if I could see the light up from space.
Nice. You would need a light in space. There's not a lot of light out there. Excellent. Thank you so much.
On the other side of the sun, right? You'd have to look around, but then it's interesting. Could you see your own light if you were back on Earth? I don't know. Would it be one of the sparkling stars? Something to wonder about. Does somebody else have something they're wondering about?
I see Dory and Miles.
What do you think, Miles? When you first had the question on the screen, Miles had the answer. He said, I want to send a person. I was like thinking he was going to say his brother.
You know who it was, Miles?
Who was the person?
Me.
That was what I was going to say. I was going to send myself.
But then,
Perfect answer. We need to get you on one of those rocket ships going up into space.
And why? Was there a why?
Because I wanted to see what space looks like.
That's the reason.
I think it's spectacular, Miles. Thank you for sharing
so
that.
much, Miles. Let's take one more. Do we have Miss Caroline?
Oh, Miss Caroline, we can't hear you at all.
Here.
Does somebody else want to share? Christina, is that your daughter there? You want to share?
Cat to space.
A cat. Now, why a cat?
Because I love him.
Oh, now would you go with him?
Yeah.
So many amazing things we could take to space. Thank you for sharing. Now, Ryan mentioned that we have all sorts of neighbors joining us tonight. Those of you who watched Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, maybe you watched Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, you know that there are all sorts of amazing neighbors that join our lives and help us to learn. And one of my amazing neighbors joining us from New Jersey is none other than Jane Park. Jane, welcome to Wonder with us.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here today. And as you were all talking, I was just like imagining a cat in space or a hula hoop or a slinky. These would all be so fun to see in space. So thank you for sparking my imagination. I am so thrilled to be here, and thank you. It's great to see people from all over the country. I'm Jane, and I'm so happy to be here because growing up, I was curious about everything, especially with my younger sister. We used to be curious about bugs outside, about bees, about the birds, where they're flying, where do they sleep at night. I was also really curious about two shows, Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street. I'm sure you're all familiar with Sesame Street. I was so curious to know like how this show was created, why they created this show. And once I learned about all the Muppets and how they were created and how they were really designed to spark joy and wonder and learning and make learning fun for kids and families. It's actually how my parents learned English by watching Sesame Street, and it was a family affair. And so growing up, I wanted to, I told my parents I want to work at Sesame Street, and that's kind of where I ended up as an adult working there. And now I work at Google, where I'm working with an amazing team to try to create and share stuff online that's safe, fun, and enriching for kids and families. So I'm thrilled to be here. Just one quick story of another thing that I wondered about. I wondered a lot about baby animals, especially chicks. And I was looking through a catalog one day and saw that there was an incubator. And so I used up my chores money, and I told my mom that I wanted to order an incubator, and I hatched 2 baby chicks at home. And they hatched at 2 in the morning, and I woke up my whole family. And to this day, my family still remembers that I woke them up at 2:30 to watch these chicks hatch. And we named them Cutie and Pie. So it was Cutie Pie.
Oh, that's so good.
And so every time I see chicks, it reminds me of that moment as a young girl and just wondering about how baby chicks are born. And to this day, I'm just thankful to my mom and my dad, who just really helped nurture my curiosity about these little chicks that I cared so much about, and just all the caring people in my life, including teachers who I had endless questions for about baby animals and chicks. Big thanks to all the adults here and teachers and educators and parents who helped to spark all of our imaginations. I am also joined here by 2 wonderful neighbors and friends and expert wanderers, Sylvia Acevedo and Jorge Cham.
I love those photos.
I know, this is great. So this is Sylvia on the left. She's a dear friend of mine. Sylvia is a rocket scientist. She's a business leader, and she's also the former Chief Executive Officer of the Girl Scouts. Sylvia is also an author of a book called Path to the Stars, My Journey from Girl Scout to Rocket Scientist. So Sylvia, thank you so much for being here today. We're also joined here by my friend and neighbor, Jorge Cham. He's a roboticist, an illustrator, and co-creator of an Emmy-nominated PBS Kids series, which you may all be familiar with, called Eleanor Wonders Why. So I'm so excited to bring both Sylvia and Jorge here into the conversation. Hi, Sylvia. Hi, Jorge.
Hi there. Thank you, Jane. And
Thank
hello
you.
Across the country.
How are you both doing today?
Wonderful. Very excited to be here.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having us. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, Sylvia, maybe we can start with you. If you can share just a little bit about yourself and what you wondered about as a little girl.
Sure, happy to do that. I grew up in southern New Mexico, and I was really fortunate to be part of programs like Head Start, library programs, so I could read as many books as I wanted to, and then also Girl Scouts. And thanks to Girl Scouts, I got interested in science and space, and I earned a science badge making a rocket. And because of that, I realized I could do math and science. And those kind of became my superpowers. And I ended up having a great career, first being a rocket scientist, then an engineer and a technology executive. I went on to be a leader who really made the world a better place. And thanks to those math skills and science skills, I was able to really have a big impact changing federal policy around education. And also in Girl Scouts, remembering how I had earned that science badge, I made sure there was 126 science badges for girls, space, cybersecurity, automotive, all sorts of fun science badges. So I'm really excited about that. And of course, what did I wonder about? I had a hard time making my rocket leave the Earth. So what I wondered about is, how do we break gravity's grip so that rockets and spaceships can go way up into the sky?
Wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. Thank you, Sylvia. You just reminded me, I was a Girl Scout myself. I was a brownie. And I still remember when I was 8 years old, went to sleepover at Kristen McKnight's house. Her mom was a Girl Scout leader. And we camped outside in her backyard and just stargazed all night. So I kind of forgot about that memory until you shared your story. So thank you, Sylvia, and for all your incredible contributions to the Girl Scouts as a rocket scientist, educator, and leader. Yay, there's Sylvia's book. Can you hold it up one more time? That's beautiful. Wow. Okay, now I feel left out. I have to go get my copy now.
Yeah, you all need to get a copy of this book because it's an extraordinary book. It's a book that you will love reading alongside the kids in your life, whether you're a parent or a teacher. This is Path to the Stars. Please get this book. The link is in the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you. Jorge, thank you again for being here today. If you can share a little bit about yourself and what you wondered about when you were little.
Sure, yeah. So I was born and raised in Panama. And for those of you that don't know where Panama is, it's a very tiny country. It's right in the middle of North America and South America, that little strip of land that joins the two together. That's where I was born and raised. And my parents worked in the Panama Canal. You may have heard of the Panama Canal that lets boats go from one ocean to the other ocean across Panama. And I think when I was little, I mostly just wondered how I could stay up past my bedtime. I think that was my main preoccupation. No, I'm just kidding. I wondered a lot as a kid about how things work and how especially like machines work. I was really interested in taking apart machines and seeing how they work, how they do the things they do. And eventually I got really interested in robots. You saw in my kid picture there, I was really into spaceships, but I was really into robots. And then eventually I came to study here in the US. I came to study mechanical engineering, and that got me into robotics. And so it became my job to make robots, to ask questions about how they work, about how you can make new and interesting robots that can do cool things like walk in other planets or run in other planets, or how to save people when there are in emergencies. And so I did that for a long time, but in the meantime, I was also really curious, and I was also wondering a lot about art and drawing and making comics. I'm sure a lot of you kids out there love comics and read a lot of comics as well. Yeah, I see some nods there for sure. I was also really curious about that. And so at some point I decided to join the two things I wondered about. And so I became a cartoonist that works with scientists and researchers to make comics that explain things to people. And eventually that led to the opportunity to create Eleanor Wonders Why.
Wherever I go, I see things that I want to know. Wherever I am, I find things I want to understand. Go and explore, listen and see. Just follow your curiosity. Eleanor wonders why. Why do birds sing and how do they fly? Eleanor wonders why. Why do ants march and where do they hide? There's so much to learn wherever you turn. Just listen and see and follow your curiosity. Eleanor wonders why. Ask a question, what will you find? Eleanor
Oh, thank you so much. That is, I love that. And let's talk a little bit about why wondering why matters, right? So Sylvia, you mentioned superpowers a little bit ago. We'll come back to that in a moment. Jorge, what sparked the idea for writing a whole television program about wonder? Why is curiosity so important?
Yeah, I think the answer is pretty easy. Wondering is wonderful. It's something we all do, especially when we're little kids. So to make the show, I was really inspired at the time by my daughter, whose name by total coincidence is also Eleanor. She was around 4 or 5 at the time, and I was just really inspired by how many questions she would ask and how the whole world seemed really new to her and everything was full of wonder and amazement. And so I really wanted to create something that captured that celebrated that, and hopefully inspired a lot of other little kids out there to keep wondering and to keep asking questions. Because, I think as we get a little bit older and we grow up, we tend to get a little bit grumpier. And some of us, I think, lose that ability to sort of look at the world through new eyes. And so we really wanted to create a show that, inspired kids to keep asking questions and to let them know that asking questions and being curious is a wonderful thing. It's awesome and it's amazing.
And Jorge, you even wrote this book about all of the questions that you still have about the universe.
Yeah. We wrote with my Daniel Whiteson, who co-created the show with me. We also we've written a couple of books. One of them is called We Have No Idea, which is probably what a lot of parents answer their children sometimes when they ask these questions. And we read a book called
Never said such a thing. I said, I've never said such a thing.
Yeah. And a book called Frequently Asked Questions About the Universe. So if you're someone who loves to think about the universe and space and what things are made out of, check those out as well. But yeah, we're just really curious people, and we really are interested in inspiring others and getting others to celebrate that curiosity and asking questions.
And it's interesting when we think about wondering, because it's not just about curiosity and not just about creativity, it's actually about fascination too. And there's learning science behind this. In fact, I had a chance to meet some learning scientists from the University of California, Berkeley, and also at the University of Pittsburgh. And they did a great big study about adults who had become scientists, people just like you, Jorge, and like you, Sylvia. And they did all this, investigative history of these folks. And they had 26 variables that ultimately led to someone becoming a scientist, a rocket scientist, a roboticist, an engineer like you all. And you know what they categorized all 26 under the umbrella of? Fascination. It was fascination. It was like you, Jane. I'm fascinated by Sesame Street. How do they make this? It was like you, Sylvia. I'm fascinated by this rocket. What could I do with this? It was just like the wondering and the creativity and the illustration that you have fascination about, Jorge. So fascination plays a critical role actually in our wondering about all sorts of possibilities. And Jane, we've got someone here who has a fascination about all sorts of things and did as a little girl.
That's right. Speaking of fascination, Sylvia, you epitomize fascination and what you did with that fascination, and that the journey that your fascination took you on. And so we want to show a short video about you in New Mexico, where you found yourself fascinated by the night sky. So we can roll the video.
I grew up in southern New Mexico, in rural New Mexico at the time, and my family struggled with poverty. We lived paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes there wasn't even enough money to go around. We had to go live with family members for an extended amount of time. When we finally were able to move out, we could only afford a house on a dirt street. Fortunately, though, I had a classmate who really pestered me to go to an after-school program with her. And that after-school program was Girl Scouts. One of the things that we did was we went camping. And that was the first time I'd gone camping. And it was also the first time I tasted s'mores. which is a delicious treat. And after I had finished an entire s'more, I was sitting on a log looking at the stars. And in New Mexico, the stars are so bright. Well, my troop leader sat down next to me and she pointed out constellations. And before then, all I knew was they were bright twinkly lights. I didn't realize there were stars, planets, constellations, systems up there. And I became mesmerized. And then I became just fascinated with space. Fortunately for me, that troop leader remembered that. So a couple of years later, we were earning different badges. And one of the badges was for science. And most of my friends were wanting to earn the cooking badge. So she said, Sylvia would like to earn the science badge. And I said, no, I want to earn the cooking badge like my friends. And she said, well, you can do both. And I did. And I'm glad I did, because both badges taught me you have to get the ingredients right, you have to get the heat source right, you have to get the sequencing right, and then you have to problem solve. And I did that. And for my science badge, I made an Estes rocket. And it took several tries before I finally got that rocket to go into the beautiful blue New Mexico sky. And when that happened, I had a sense of, yeah, I can do science, I can do math, which was not common for girls back then to do science and math. You know, as a kid, when you do something and you like it, you do more of it. And because you do more of it, you get better at it. And the more I did, the better I got. And I had this virtuous circle. So I got so good at math, I became a rocket scientist.
Wow, that is so wonderful, Sylvia. I hadn't seen that video before.
Yeah, it's in a documentary.
I'm fascinated by your video, the video about you, Sylvia. And
Yeah,
thank you for
it's
sharing the story.
yeah, it's part of a cybersecurity video of women who have made a big impact on cybersecurity. So yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, in the video, you talk about how you wondered about the stars. I'm also just, I was really moved as you talked about, you know, your own family, that there were limited resources, but you kind of got lost in your fascination about the stars and the solar system and the planets, and you later became a rocket scientist. So tell us about Path to the Stars and how you, you know, how you got from point A to point B, and also just, you know, I think that this fascination that we all feel, or you felt, can't really put it into words, but it's something, you know, you feel down inside. So curious to hear what that felt like for you, that just kind of moved you to telling people about it.
So when I couldn't get my rocket ship to launch and really figured in problem solve, like finally it left gravity's grip, you know, broke gravity's grip. I was like, what is this force that doesn't let things go up and only down, right? And so I got so fascinated with gravity because it's unseen, right? You don't see it, but you experience it. You know, you don't fall up, you fall down. So to get something to leave Earth and go up to, you know, the moon, into space, I was really fascinated. And I knew I needed to know a lot about science and math. And so when my teacher would assign the even problems, I did the even and the odd problems. And then I kept asking my teachers even more. So they finally give me the teacher's edition of the books. So I really loved, you know, math and figuring things out. You know, in math, there's concrete answers, right? In, you know, there's just a right answer. But in science, you know, especially when you're wonder and fascinating, you don't always know the answer. And that's also really intriguing as well. I was also really grateful that I had the time to wonder. And it's really important for kids to, you know, not right now, but later on, turn off your devices, your mobile devices and your computers, and just sometimes stare into space. I can't tell you how many nights I would just stare up in the, I'd be with a, you know, laying on the lawn and just staring up at the stars. And occasionally I'd see a shooting star. And that fascination just really propelled me to study, how did, you know, these planets move, how did the stars move, how did they move together? You know, it's a big system. So it only was natural that I only applied to one place after graduating from college. And I was fortunate to get into work at NASA at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And I got to work on this Voyager 2 mission when it was going by Jupiter. So Jupiter's that planet with a big red dot. So, and it has a lot of moons. And so my job was to study all the information coming back from two of the moons called Io and Europa. And that's kind of what I write about in my book, Path to the Stars. It's a middle school book.
Sylvia, I love that you brought up the fact of like just giving ourselves time to stare at something and wonder about it. We write in our book that, you know, Mr. Rogers, in some scenes in the neighborhood, there are scenes of just him watching paint dry. And he didn't do that because he wanted his viewers to be bored. He did that because he wanted to give his viewers time to wonder, time to let those questions percolate, time to think about what are they going to wonder about next. We know that wonder matters. You are living proof, Sylvia.
Yeah, no, I'm so grateful I had that time to just wonder. And I don't know why, but in my young brain, I sometimes climbed a tree to be even closer to the stars. Not that I climbed that high, but I would be up in that tree and I would just stare. And I'm so grateful for that time because I began just imagining. And when you begin imagining, you begin creating. And that's a very important part of learning and being fascinated and wondering.
It makes me think, Sylvia, what is it that I can do here in my own household with my kids or the kids in my neighborhood? I'm sure the other parents and aunts and grandparents and teachers that are with us right now are wondering the same thing, because to hear your story, Jorge, to hear your story, and to know that research data from the learning scientists, the importance of creating time, space, and being deliberate about supporting fascination. Because fascination is what allows a young girl from New Mexico to grow up to become that rocket scientist and entrepreneur and author that you are. So what are the things that we can do in our own homes that maybe spark that wonder and creativity for ourselves as family units, as neighbors? And we want to take a look at a quick video about how one of our guests does just that. So let's play this video from Jorge, please.
Hello, explorers! Today we're exploring real questions from kids like you.
Hi, I'm Jorge, and this is Eleanor. What are you drawing, Eleanor?
Moths. I love drawing their wings. See? This one has blue wings, and this one has spots on their wings, and this one has super extra colorful wings.
That's amazing, and what a coincidence, because today's question is about moths.
Really?
Yeah, it's a question about moth wings. Vineshka from London, England wants to know...
Hi, Eleanor. My name is Vanessa, and I live in London. And I wonder why moths have different patterns on their wings. That's a great question.
Yes, thank you, Vineshka.
I never thought about it before. Why do moths have different colored patterns on their wings?
Well, how should we explore this question?
I think we need more observations.
Great idea, Eleanor. Let's see. What have we observed about moths?
I noticed that different kinds of moths have different colors and patterns on their wings. Look, it's another moth. Those two must be the same kind because they have the same pattern. Maybe that's how they find other moths of the same kind. They can tell from the pattern in their wings.
Great thinking, Eleanor. I noticed that some animals like to eat moths, but some moths aren't good for other animals to eat. Maybe that's how animals know which moths not to eat.
Wow, having different patterns on their wings is good for lots of things.
Yeah, let's keep observing.
I noticed that sometimes moths are really hard to see.
Huh? I don't see any moths.
Look closer.
Wow, that moth looks just like the leaves around it.
Yeah, the pattern on its wings help it hide from other animals. That's called camouflage.
Whoa.
Moths have different patterns on their wings for lots of reasons.
Yeah. For some moths, it helps them stand out, and for others, it helps them hide or stay safe from other animals.
That is so interesting.
Hey, let's see who can draw the most colorful moth. Are you ready? Go!
So Jorge, I noticed Well, I notice a lot of you saying, I notice. I notice a lot of making observations. I see you and Eleanor thinking about what you've seen, talking about what you've seen, and even drawing pictures. Can you talk about why this stuff is important? You know, how is it that Eleanor and her friends go out and find out more about the things that they're curious about?
Yeah, great question, Ryan. I think for those of us who make the show, it's really important for us to know, to let kids know that they have this superpower. They have this ability to ask questions and to make observations, which is to see or to listen to things and notice things around them. And that they are capable of sometimes answering their own questions. I think a lot of maybe kids don't know this or sometimes forget that they're able to do this, and that's how they can learn a lot about the world. And it's something that I know a lot of parents find it sometimes hard to do, which is to sort of have these talks with their kids, because some research we've read also says that a lot of parents feel kind of nervous when kids ask them questions about science and about math and things like that, because they're afraid that they won't know the answer. They're afraid, like I said earlier, that their answer is going to be, I have no idea. And so we really wanted to make sure that parents and kids know that it's great when you have these conversations. It's great when kids feel encouraged to ask questions, and when parents engage with the kids, even if you don't know the answer, which honestly happens to me most of the time, a great technique is to kind of reflect the question back on the kids. Just instead of saying, oh, I don't know, or instead of saying, hey, just look it up on the internet, have a chat about it and say, what do you think? What have you noticed about that? And what do you think that might happen if this happened? And so just having, taking a little bit of the time out of your day to have those conversations is one of the things we hope people kind of get out of Eleanor.
Jorge, there were so many things I noticed in that clip, and many thanks to PBS Kids for sharing that. And I'm pretty sure PBS Kids has a PDF that we can each use at home that we'll put into the chat that takes advantage of Eleanor Wonders Why. One of the things that I noticed in that clip is that you started with some familiar things, which is a lesson I've learned from Fred Rogers, right? So many people remember Mr. Rogers taking us to the crayon factory and seeing how machines work. But the fascinating thing about that is Mr. Rogers didn't take us immediately to the crayon factory and show us how machines work. He started with a crayon, the simple crayon that was familiar to his viewers, and then started taking us to that mysterious place as where and how was this crayon made, right? Which takes us off to the factory. Is this a deliberate approach you use in your own program of taking us from something familiar and then taking us out into the mystery of the universe?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the, I think most important things when you're talking about engaging kids or getting kids to ask questions is to kind of start where they are, make things relatable, make things that seem sort of relevant or important to them. And then kind of, as you said, lead them on that path to discover like, hey, you have an interest in this. Did you know that crayons are made in a factory? Or did you know you have an interest to draw butterflies? Have you ever thought about why butterflies or moths have different patterns? And so I think, anytime you're engaging kids, it's kind of good to start at their level and think about what they're interested in, and then hopefully use that to launch curiosity quests.
And Sylvia, I'm curious for you in that Girl Scout troop, right? There were the more familiar badges like cooking, but then those badges might lead you to other places like science badges. Was that your experience and the support that you received from your troop leader?
I was really fortunate that I did both simultaneously and that I failed at first, both at the time. So I wanted my cooking badge, I wanted to make galletas de cacahuate, peanut butter cookies, right? And so back then we didn't have Google, and all of our cooking books were in Spanish. And my mom said, do you need help? And I'm like, nah, I got this. And so I put everything together, and my brother, he came home just as the cookies were coming out of the oven. And he grabbed one, ate it, and spat it out. Well, I asked my mom what happened. And so when we looked at it, I had translated everything correctly except for one ingredient. Instead of putting a teaspoon of salt, I put a cup. I mistranslated that. So my mom taught me, there's very few recipes that one eats that you require a cup of salt, right? So then the next thing was peanut butter was really expensive. My family didn't have a lot of my money. So my mom said, okay, we've got to figure out something else. So I wanted to make a pizza. So I tried to make the pizza dough. And no matter what I did, I remembered when I was making my rocket that everything had to be really, you had to have the ignition hot so that it could go up into space. So when I read the ingredients and it said warm water, I thought, well, I'm going to make it really warm. So I put boiling hot water on the yeast. Well, I didn't know it was a living organism, and I basically killed it. So my the dough never rose. And so again, I called my mother and she's like, okay, you never use water warmer than what's a little bit uncomfortable on your skin. I was like, okay, this time she didn't go away. She watched me. And the third time I finally made the pizza dough rise and I made the pizza. And so that was great. But it was good because it taught me that I had failed, but I had figured out and problem solved, was it the right ingredients? Did I get the sequence right? Did I get the temperature right? That was so identical to what I was doing for my spaceship, my rocket that was going up. You got to get the ingredients right, the chemicals right, you got to get the sequence right, you got to get the heat source right. And so I thought, girls are supposed to do cooking, but it's just like doing science. So that was really important for me. It was sort of transformative because I realized I could be interested, I could be confident, and I could be competent in that.
That's great. Sylvia, you talked a lot about, just these caring adults in your lives who supported your, who allowed you to cook in the kitchen and gave you all these opportunities and your teacher. So speaking of kind of the parents and caregivers and educators and neighbors, how can all these caring adults support children's wonder in similar ways?
Okay, this is going to make parents really uncomfortable, but I'm going to mention 4 letters. FAIL, F-A-I-L, but I want you to reinterpret it. Mm-hmm. It is not failure, it's first attempt in learning.
I love that. I love that.
And so a lot of times, my mom, we don't want our kids to not have immediate success, but that's how you learn. First attempt in learning. And so, boy, let me tell you, I'll never put too much salt in anything I make again, right? Because she let me fail. The same thing. I never, kill the yeast and my bread rises when I make that because I learned that, right? So don't be afraid to let your kids fail. That's how you learn.
So when something like that happens, Sylvia, what do you tell yourself when there is a failure, whether it's in the kitchen or at NASA? What do you tell yourself?
So what went wrong? What went right? What could I do differently? Mm-hmm. What could provide a different outcome? So to try, that one didn't work, but let's try something else. Yeah. So I think caregivers, it's really important, 4-letter word, FAIL. First attempt in learning. And then also, if a kid doesn't get it right away, that's okay too. I'm so grateful I was allowed to fail more than 6 times making my rocket. In fact, I didn't get to finish it right away because back then I ran out of money and I totally destroyed my first kit. So I had to then send away to go get another kit. Right. But meanwhile, no one said, well, Sylvia, you're really not getting the hang of this. I don't think this is for you. Instead, it was like, let's figure it out. Let's see how you can do it. And when I finally was able to do it, it gave me so much confidence that I could do it. And I developed that skill to be, one of my superpowers.
So I just want to quickly share one example, Jane, of something we learned from the folks who worked with Fred Rogers, and an example of something that we put in our book that speaks directly to the things that the 5 grown-ups here on the screen and elsewhere can do. Because as we're hearing from Sylvia and Jorge, We all have lots of questions. We had questions as kids, we have questions as adults, we have great big fascination. And a woman by the name of Hedda Sherapin worked with Fred Rogers from the very first day of production. And she gave us this example of walking into a classroom and noticing that the kids in the classroom were asking lots of questions. And I like to think that they're older kids, not just the younger kids, right? And in the front of the classroom, she had a great big wicker basket. And what I loved about this is that she used the wicker basket to notice the questions that the kids had, whether it was on point or completely off the wall. Took a moment to acknowledge it, wrote it down, put it in the Ask It basket, and said later together, we're going to wonder about the answers or possible answers to your questions. And it's something that each of us can do in our kitchens at home, in our libraries, in our classrooms with a Rubbermaid bowl or a wicker basket, and something we can do to spark and prompt wonder in all sorts of ways, Ryan.
Sylvia, I want to go back to that real quick, a point you made about fail, first attempt at learning, because you kept trying, your rockets kept crashing, but they didn't keep crashing forever. You eventually really did send something very important into space. Can you tell us a little bit about Voyager 2? What was it and where is it now?
So Voyager 2 is a spacecraft that was going and doing basically a tour of our planets, and it brought back so much great information. In fact, the pictures you have and you see of our different planets came from Voyager 2. It has been the most successful NASA project ever. It's over 44 years old and still sending back information. And in fact, it's left our solar system. And so what that means is that our sun kind of has this huge gravitational pull and keeps all of our planets and everything rotating around it. Well, Voyager 2 has left that. It's in interstellar space now, but it's still sending us back messages. So really exciting mission to have worked on. And it has the iconic pictures you see of all of our planets come from Voyager 2.
And you really did send something into space on Voyager 2. Voyager 2 had something very special on it. And so did Voyager 1 for that matter, the golden record. I think we have the golden record queued up. We're gonna play just a quick selection of sounds from it. This has music from all over the country. It has greetings from children all over the world. Here we hear a rocket. And then we hear a kiss. And then we hear a mother and her baby. Jorge, what might Eleanor wonder about sounds like these?
She would probably wonder where those sounds are coming from and who made them and why was the baby crying?
And Jorge, what do you think Eleanor might have put on Voyager 2?
Oh, that's a great question. I am guessing she might have put questions for whoever might find Voyager 2. You know, there's so much we still don't know about the world, about the universe. She would probably fill up a paper with all of her questions and put it on the spaceship to hopefully somebody will one day or someone or something will find it and to, hopefully help us find the answers.
And Sylvia, if someone or something ever finds a golden record and figures out how to play it, what do you think they'll wonder about us?
So they're going to wonder how we're not taking care of our home Earth and how we're letting it get so hot. It's kind of destroying itself. I think they'll wonder that, like you know how rare it is for a planet to be able to sustain life and you're not taking care of it. They're going to wonder that.
They're going to wonder about all sorts of wonderful and wicked things, I'm quite sure.
Yeah.
I want to thank, on behalf of Ryan and Jane, Sylvia and Jorge for joining us tonight. You all are the most wonderful human beings possible. We just love that you joined us for this remarkable Remake Learning Days Across America event, Wonder With Us. We're going to stick around a little bit, but I want to share with everyone that tonight is just one of 1,500 events happening over the course of Remake Learning Days Across America in 17 cities and locations across the United States and also nationally online in all sorts of ways. So you can find out more at remakelearning.org. days.org, and that link is in the chat. As we think about space and we think about this planet, there are also some incredible events that actually relate to space and the things we've been talking about tonight. In fact, on May 13th, our friends at the Smithsonian are hosting a shared virtual story time, The Spacesuits, How a Seamstress Helped Put a Man on the Moon. And there are other space-related events happening in southeastern Pennsylvania, in northwest Pennsylvania, in Cincinnati, in Kansas City, in Washington, D.C., and in all sorts of other wonderful places across this country. You can also join us for the next Wonder With Us event on May 24th. We'll be joined by Casey Robin, who's an amazing designer and illustrator and animator with Noggin, worked previously with Disney and others. We do have to postpone our event with Coy. He'll be back with us at Back to School. And all along the way, whether it's during Remake Learning Days or sometime this summer, you can curl up with Path to the Stars, written by Sylvia Acevedo. And I hope you're going to catch many, many episodes of Eleanor Wonders Why. So we're putting a lot of those links in the chat, but we want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. And we'll stick around in case you have any questions. So if anyone wants to come offline and ask Sylvia or Jorge some questions, here we are.
Sylvia, or I'm sorry, Jorge, real quick, do you want to mention A Wonderful Journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So we made a movie starring Eleanor and her friends. It's called A Wonderful Journey. It's about an hour long, which is perfect for little kids. And you can catch it right now on PBS Kids, wherever you watch PBS Kids. And it's a really fun movie because it's a movie where Eleanor starts to wonder why she wonders why. So she learns about why she likes to ask questions and what asking questions is good for. So it's very meaningful movie for her and story. So she goes out in an adventure with meets new characters and has a lot of fun.
Jorge, I sometimes wonder why I can't shut off my brain. Does anyone have any questions for Sylvia, for Jorge, for Jane, for Ryan?
Actually, I think there was a question that came through for Sylvia. What was it like being a brownie? And if anyone else wants to ask a question, please feel free to turn it.
You know, I did because my family had just moved from one part of town to another part of town, and I didn't have any friends. So being a brownie was great because it immediately gave me a friendship network. And I love that. So it was a great way to make friends. And then I loved all the structured activities that I hadn't been exposed to before. So like we would go to a park and then we would get leaves from all the different trees and then press them into a book. And we did the same thing with flowers. And for me, that was mind blowing because I used to just think a tree's a tree, a tree, a tree, right? But then I learned that they had all sorts of different leaves. And then also, you know, if you think a tree is a ponderosa pine, you can stick your nose right in the bark and it smells like vanilla. So I just learned all these great things. And to this day, when I think I see a ponderosa pine, I still stick my nose right in it. And my friends make fun of me, but that's okay.
Sylvia, I think we have a Girl Scout here from Ruggles family. Hi.
Oh, great. Hi there.
What's your name?
Opal.
Opal.
Oh.
Hi, Opal. So are you're a Girl Scout? Tell us about your troop.
We are a Juliet, and which means we do it on our own pace. And 4 days from now, I am verging to brownies.
Oh, great. That's fantastic.
Congratulations.
Make sure you do some of these great badges. There's space badges, which are so much fun. And there is a specific space badge for brownies that talks about naming the planets and stars. And they kind of did that one for me because of my story. So I really like that one quite a bit. Oh, you have
a book. Yay.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really great. I hope you enjoy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come off mute or put a question in the chat? And yes, there will be a recording of tonight and we will get it out.
I actually do have a question for a couple of the kids here. What do you want us grown-ups to know?
Oh, that's a big question.
Is there anything we should know about creating more fun environments that spark wonder for kids?
You know, one of the things when I interact with a lot of kids is to let them know it's okay to try something new. A lot of times they want to just do something that's kind of familiar, but it's really okay to try something new. And, you know, even if sometimes maybe the parent's not really familiar, they can be part of the learning journey with the kid, with the, you know, with the kid as well. So I think that's really okay. You know, you might think, well, I don't know anything about this or whatever. Maybe it's no one in your family is doing things around space or whatever, but go ahead and ask and you'd be surprised. I think they'd like to learn too.
And Sylvia, that's the wonderful thing about Remake Learning Days across America, because there are events where you can say, I'm sort of fascinated by coding, but I don't know a thing about it. Or what is this making thing? Or what are invertebrates and how do I learn about them, right? And there are all sorts of wonderful ways for young people with the adults in their lives to try new things and to learn together.
Mm-hmm. And a tip for parents wanting to get, sometimes girls don't always know how to get involved in science or something. One of the ways we learned at Girl Scouts was to kind of frame it of helping animals. So one of the ways we got girls really interested in cars wasn't by building a car or racing a car, but instead we said, imagine if your cat or your dog or your pet is injured. Figure out how you take that animal to get help. And so suddenly the girls are really motivated to figure out, how am I going to make sure my cat or my dog or my pet gets the help they need? So reframe it in ways that they are interested in.
Well, Sylvia and Jorge, bring us back from space, back to planet Earth, and something that you would wish for us all as we look to the wondrous months ahead and all that's ahead for us in our lives. Jorge?
Yeah, I wish that none of us ever lose that wonder and curiosity, you know, that we're born with, that comes naturally to us. And I hope we keep looking at the world, as Sylvia said, with fascination and awe at the beauty of our planet, and we keep taking care of it, and we keep asking questions, you know, so that we all, you know, don't take things for granted and really know how to have discussions about serious things in the future.
Thank you, Jorge. Sylvia?
You know, I'm going to say, believe in yourself. You know, you're asking questions. That's absolutely right. Even if you don't know the answer yet, that's part of the fascination, part of the wonder, part of the journey. So believe that's part of what you're here. You're a unique person. And that's part of what you're bringing to us, is that you have a unique way of looking at stuff. And remember, sometimes learning stuff can be kind of messy. You're not always going to get it right. And that's okay. That's how you learn. Remember, first attempt in learning.
I love that. Yeah. You know, the title of our book, When You Wonder You're Learning, comes from a Mr. Rogers song. Did you know? Did you know when you wonder you're learning? And we've gotten a chance to learn from all of you this evening. And you've helped us to wonder and to learn and to spark a real curiosity in the things that fascinate us as we move ahead. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy Remake Learning Days, everyone, and keep on wondering.